Hey everybody, Suz here. So glad to finally be back with you. Today we are going to try out an adaptation of I Breathe, I'm Hungry's Keto Beef Brisket. We're changing up our cooking method a little on this by using a crock pot, but you could do this in an Instant Pot. If you don't have either of those, you could also just cook it low and slow in your oven. So let's go ahead and get into it. If you're not subscribed to our channel, make sure you do that now. We try to film keto cooking videos every week, although lately it might be every couple of weeks. So to start with, we're going to mix up her Keto BBQ Seasoning. So for that, I'm adding in 1/3 cup of granulated swerve, 2 teaspoons of sea salt, and after some spillage here, 1.5 tablespoons of smoked paprika, 1/2 teaspoon of ground mustard, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/2 teaspoon of ground allspice. I was a little bit short here. This is more like 1/4 teaspoon. 1/2 teaspoon of ground coriander, 1/2 teaspoon of ground black pepper, and 1/2 teaspoon of ground cayenne pepper for a little bit of heat. Popping my lid on a Pyrex container, I'm just going to give this a really good shake until it is all mixed together. We're only going to be using about 1/4 cup of this seasoning rub for our recipe today, and the rest of it I can just pop the lid back on and store in the spice cabinet to use for a future recipe. Now for our beef brisket, you can see here I've got about just shy of 3 pounds worth of beef brisket here. You can see the fatty portion on top. Like I said, I've been trying to catch this on sale for like a year and never get it. And so I was able to get a 7-pound one, and I just cut it, split it, and froze the other portions for future recipes. And I'm just going to take 1/4 cup of that seasoning blend we just put together and coat the top, bottom, and all of the sides of our brisket really well with this. Now I'm going to be throwing my whole thing into a crock pot to make it super easy. But if you're feeling extra motivated or want to be really fancy with it, you can definitely give this beef brisket a good sear on each side for a few minutes, and that's going to just make it even more flavorful before you throw it in your oven or your crock pot or your Instant Pot, whichever mode you decide to use to cook this. And once we have that all seasoned, I'm just going to stick it to the side, and we're going to mix up our liquids that we're going to put in with our brisket. So in this measuring cup, I have 2/3 cup of water. I'm adding in 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, and then I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons of unsweetened ketchup. I love Primal Kitchen ketchup. You can see this bottle only has pretty much exactly 2 tablespoons left in it. I also love their spicy ketchup. It's so delicious. If you don't have that, you could definitely use tomato paste. No sugar added tomato paste for this, and it would work fine. I'm just going to whisk that all together. We're going to be pouring this into our crock pot with our brisket. Grabbing a large crock pot, I am going to spray it down with a little extra virgin olive oil just to help our onion not to really stick and burn to the bottom of this. And I just have 1/2 of a small onion here, just like 4 slices. I kind of left the rings together, and I'm just putting that into the bottom of our crock pot. I'm going to sit our beef brisket right on top of that. You want to make sure you have the fatty portion on top so that as it cooks, that is just like dripping down into that meat, making it nice and tender and flavorful. Going to take the liquid that we mixed up and pour it around our brisket. Now, if I was ever good at really getting started as early as I want to with a crock pot meal, I would definitely cook this low and slow all day long, like 12 hours. But since I did not, I cooked mine on high for 4 hours, and then I turned it to low and cooked it for an additional 4 hours on low, and that was perfect. It was just tender enough. You could still slice it with a knife, but it wasn't like too overly falling apart. And here's what it looks like afterwards. Now you could, do this how most people would recommend and take your brisket out of the crock pot, let it rest for a few minutes, and then slice it on like a cutting board or something. Not me. I'm going to take a utility knife and slice this right in the crock pot into little strips. And then I'm going to serve it up. You could also take this juice that is in the crock pot and reduce it on the stovetop and thicken it to make a gravy. That would be excellent on some creamed cauliflower or cauliflower rice even, but I opted to just steam some petite green beans in butter and a little chicken broth and plated it up like that. So I just have a little tiny bit of onion on top of our brisket. Make sure you spoon those flavorful juices all over the top of that. This was so delicious, and it was great just to have like a comfort food meal. I haven't made anything comfort food wise in a while, and it was also awesome to know that we had leftovers the next day. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed this adaptation of I Breathe I'm Hungry's keto beef brisket. Of course, her original recipe is linked down below. I highly recommend you check out her food blog, as it's just full of amazing recipes, and everything I've tried from her is really on point. And make sure you're subscribed to our channel. Give this a thumbs up if you liked it. Comment down below any recipes you'd like to see us tackle in the future. And until next time, bye y'all.